to come and work some of those. So we've addressed that with them as well,
Okay, good.
but that was also a contributing cause.
Yeah, we heard that too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All set. Councilor Allenson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, thank you so much for that update. From the letter sent to us by our CFO, the Lynn Police is one of the few departments that has capital requests. I'm also happy to see that there'll be new 16 police cars coming to our city.
Yep.
What is our inventory right now? Why do we need 16 police cars? Are there's other 16 police cars that are not?
Yeah, so honestly, prior to COVID, in the lean years of the city, when funding was scarce, we weren't purchasing cruisers at a regular rate, and we're still recovering from that. So when you think on an average shift, there is anywhere from 10 to 14 or 15 marked cruisers on patrol. We prefer not to run them 24 hours a day because obviously it accelerates the timeline that they're available for use or effective use. So we try to run them only 2 shifts per day. So what that cruiser commitment will do is help us to do exactly that. Some of the older cruisers will come down and be used in service for SROs or on details of things like that, but it'll help us have newer cruisers on patrol and address the needs for the patrol personnel to have good quality equipment as they go out and engage in their duties.
So do we have, so we're not removing 16 old vehicles?
No, well, some will be. It's a trickle-down effect. So literally in the past year, several of our SRO cruisers just, let's say, for example, a cruiser is 12 years old and has 150,000 miles and now it needs a new transmission. The cost of all of that is just not, it's no longer worth putting the money in, and we have to take them out of service. An evaluation is made all the time. We submit that as part of our budget request on, the current status of all of our cruisers. But what the new cruisers will do is allow us to have sufficient cruisers for the SROs, ones that are very old and carrying lots of costs for repairs, will be taken out of service.
Yeah, I'm very excited with this development. Actually, I actually told my colleagues this a few weeks
We are
ago.
too.
That I remember when I first moved to Lynn, there's only 1 or 2 brand new cars.
Yeah.
And they use those cars for like parades, like whoever the start of the parade, because it's brand new. And to see a lot of them here, I just want to make sure that you have enough parking spots in your department, or we can utilize some of the parts in that cars for future needs. So
Yeah,
that's all.
We don't get rid of cruisers unless the cost of repairs or the condition really makes it necessary, because we have so many uses for them.
Thank you, Chief. You also mentioned about grant writing or possible getting grants.
Yep.
I asked you this question last year, and unfortunately, we still have 1 dog officer, and it's always been a problem, most especially to ward councilors, having problems with dogs in our parks where there's no dogs allowed. And it's also, I know JR is doing his part, and I could not picture 1 dog officer wrangling a dog. It needs somebody there. Can your department, any of your possibility to hire another dog officer in a city of like 110,000 by now, and still having 1 dog officer? I think it's not fair.
I couldn't agree with you more. I have separate comments for the Animal Control Officer budget because it's a separate budget from the Police Department budget. I can speak to that now if you'd like. But, again, we're grateful for the level funding, but the members of the council and many in the city know we've experienced significant challenges in recent years resulting from the animal control needs in this city. First of all, one of the big challenges we have is that it's difficult to get backup when we have only 1 officer if he's away with his family for the weekend. We've had some great support from local communities, Linfield in particular. The ACO over there has been fantastic, but recently he's expressed some frustration because, we do get a lot of calls. And if our ACO is unavailable, he's been a great support, but we have to give some attention to that. And I will have to come back to to Mike Patino and the mayor's office to address those issues in the future. We've also having significant problems in the boarding of the animals. And these are not exclusive to Lynn either. The ACO, J.R. Plourde, under the direction of, Sergeant Hunter, he's who he reports to, and Captain Brown in our patrol division, they've done a tremendous amount of research among other communities to find out how they're dealing with the issues of boarding animals. It's a complicated and challenging problem, not exclusive to Lynn, and we continue to work on those issues. But to your point, we are trying to develop relationships, formal relationships with the area ACOs for coverage when our ACO is either on vacation or otherwise unavailable. And it's going to be an ongoing discussion that we'll be having with the mayor and the CFO. I do also want to point out they've done some really good work in being innovative and using social media and other sources to try to get stray dogs that we end up having to take possession of, try to get them connected back with their owners. And it's really been very, very helpful and successful. Having said that, in a city of well over 100,000, we have a lot of stray dogs that are simply abandoned, and we have to board them, and it's a cost. And I can just tell you this is a difficult problem. We continue to work on it, and hopefully we'll make some progress soon.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
going to
Chairman.
go, thank you, Councilor Allenson. Go to Councilor McLean and then Councilor Field.
Hello, Chief. You mentioned that you'd be allowing some money to, or some funds from your budget to outreach and community work. Has there been any consideration for restorative justice in those line items? Because as we know, there's been historical issues with Black and brown communities, with law enforcement and the system in general. So I'm wondering if there's anything that you've been giving consideration to and along the lines of restorative justice.
So we do community outreach and engagement and participate in discussions with groups throughout the city throughout the year. Being engaged with our community, building those relationships through positive engagement is a fundamental part of our mission. So yes, it's not a separate line item, but it is part of what we do all the time. It's also part of our training commitment. You and I have had discussions about that specific topic. I know we have plans to talk to a local agency about how to actually do some of that work here. But again, we do not have a separate funding source for that, so we have to try and be creative at times.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to Councilor Maggie Madry. Oh, Councilor Field, excuse me. Councilor Field and Councilor Maggie
You
Madry.
can go. Ladies first.
No, go ahead, that's fine.
First before seconds, is that how we're doing it? Go ahead, Councilor Maggie Madry.
Thank you, Chairman. So my question is around safety around the schools. Could you speak a little bit about, me and Councilor Matul were at a meeting at Ford Elementary School, and a lot of the parents were really concerned that there's no crossing guard at their school in particular. So we are concerned about that. And can you just speak a little bit about like what the plan is as around safety for the kids and crossing guards?
Sure. So currently, we have 27 of 42 crossing guard positions filled. The posting for crossing guards is essentially up all the time, and we're constantly seeking new candidates. But especially since COVID, we've had a much lower participation and turnover, and some of our crossing guards also sometimes are snowbirds, and they're gone in the winter months when they're still critically needed. What we do is our patrol division tries to work with principals and staff. We've recently worked with the principal of Brickett School to try to help them deal with the problem. Our traffic unit and patrol have been working with Ford School for months, and we try to have a presence up there. I know the parking department is up there as well to try to address some of the issues. It is a problem where in an older city with narrow streets, and most of our schools were built for students to walk to school, and that's just not how it works anymore. So particularly, more so in dismissal time, because everyone's getting out at the same time, but even to some extent on the morning arrival, we have significant issues around many schools. We've had to address serious issues outside the KIP because the fire department was unable to respond to calls for service, so we've had to have a commitment up there. Our patrol divisions maintain a presence at lots of schools on a daily basis if they're not tied up on a call, and it's a problem we're working on. Having said that, I've also had discussions with the CFO and the mayor's office about the hourly wage for our crossing guards and the need. We're looking in comparing how area communities, what they're paying, and we're going to have substantive discussions on that this summer and try to see what we can do that might help to attract more candidates for those positions in the coming school year.
Thank you. And can you just speak a little bit about, you said there's 27 out of 42. How is it determined which schools get the crossing guards and which ones don't?
So our youth services unit has an officer whose responsibility is to oversee all of the crossing guards, and she manages them. She gets input from the school, she gets input from her supervisors, she gets input, frankly, from us, and we evaluate where the need is. And it's hard, you can't just do 1, 2, 3. It's like, yeah, this is really serious here, and this is serious here. So it's subjective, but we do our best to put them where they are most needed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Field, back to
Thank
you.
you, thank you, Chairman Lapierre. Thanks, Chief. One question I forgot to discuss, and I apologize. The SROs. I know after the uptick in violence earlier this year, and more specifically with Lynn Classical, your department was great at covering the school. Is there a commitment this budget cycle for a permanent SRO at Lynn Classical for the upcoming fiscal year?
So I've had discussions with Dr. Alvarez about this. We have been aware and continue to be aware, and we support having SROs, certainly in all the middle and high schools, but again, it's a staffing issue. So our commitment is if we have the staffing, we intend to do that. Currently, we expect to add more SROs next year, but until August comes, I can't make a final determination, but that is our hope and expectation.
And how long does it take to train somebody to be an SRO?
They go to a week-long training, and then there's other training. We're going to advance train people so that if, assuming that we have the staffing, we can put them in the position. Enough for at least our basic expectation.
And there's still coverage like there had been if there's not an SRO? If there's not a permanent SRO?
If an SRO is off for some reason, there's not coverage.
Okay.
You know, they have an assignment there, there's not. We made a commitment in response for a variety of reasons to work with the school department, to work with the mayor's office, to address concerns of the classical community. But we've also had discussions about other ways to address security concerns and, you know, procedures and how to address those safety and the fear that that community was feeling. SROs are one piece of it, but that's not even their primary function. Their primary function is not security. It's to engage with the students in a positive way and build trust and, you know, and also engage in some proactive outreach and learning.
Right. I think that's exactly the point that we're hoping to get to is if we do have a permanent SRO for all the high schools, we don't have to get to that violent point, hopefully.